The porpoising problem just doesn't like to go away, and things have gotten to the extent of drivers pushing for changes up to the governing body of the F1 FIA. Few of us thought that the FIA would actually change anything because the teams have one solution available: race the right height. However, yesterday, FIA announced that intervention regarding reducing the porpoising on safety grounds will happen. What are these interventions that the FIA will implement? And is it possible that teams that have porpoised the most, such as Mercedes, will be hurt severely by these rules? That would be a real punch in the gut for them, considering the fact that they were the loudest voices in the paddock regarding the porpoising problem. So stick with us until the end of this video to find out more about the new rules of FIA regarding the porpoising phenomenon, as we kindly ask you to leave us a like and subscribe to our channel. That way, we'll be able to grow in a quicker manner and will have the opportunity to deliver more top-notch content to you on a regular basis. So, an official request was made by the Grand Prix Drivers Association to FIA that their regular briefing on Friday in Baku. This request was done after several drivers have suffered neck and back issues on the bumpy circuit, one of which was the 7-time world champion Lewis Hamilton. The Brit has suffered badly from this problem during the race too. So even if he was exaggerating the problem, the story has been sold. Apart from him, his teammate George Russell and the Ferrari driver Carlos Sainz Jr. have also expressed increased stiffness in their neck and back area. With that being said, FIA has intervened by issuing a technical directive to teams that reference both short and long-term measures. But the rules won't apply to Montreal, a track that has a very similar nature to Baku regarding the main straight part. This weekend, FIA will focus more on observation and data gathering, a process that'll help them to make the new regulative more objective and precise. The official statement of FIA was released yesterday, as they said, following the 8th round of this year's FIA Formula One World Championship, during which the phenomenon of aerodynamic oscillations or porpoising of the new generation of F1 cars and the effect of this during and after the race on the physical condition of the drivers was once again visible. The FIA, as the governing body of the sport, has decided that in the interests of the safety, it's necessary to intervene to require that the teams make the necessary adjustments to reduce or to eliminate this phenomenon. FIA has played this extremely well, as they're going on the safety card mainly on the grounds of drivers' concentration. The unanimous support of teams regarding these changes is not required, and the FIA has also noted that the intervention was made after consultation with its doctors in the interests of the safety of the drivers. In a sport where the competitors are routinely driving at speeds in excess of 300 km per hour, it is considered that all of the drivers' concentration needs to be focused on that task, and that excessive fatigue or pain experienced by a driver could have significant consequences should it result in a loss of concentration. In addition, the FIA has concerns in relation to the immediate physical impact on the health of the drivers, a number of whom have reported back pain following recent events, added FIA to their statement. But what exactly has FIA intervened with? There are two major things that will be implemented for future races. The first one is close scrutiny of the planks and skids, both in terms of their design and the observed wear. The second one is a definition of a metric based on the car's vertical acceleration that'll give a quantitative limit for an acceptable level of vertical oscillations. The exact mathematical formula for this metric is still being analyzed by the FIA, and F1 teams have been invited to contribute to this process. What this means is that the FIA will actually measure the porpoising with a mathematical formula, with which they'll be able to understand just how much a car porpoises. Which brings us to the next part of this video. Will these updates help teams that are struggling with the porpoising phenomenon, such as Mercedes and Ferrari? And if they do, what's the price that they have to pay for it? At this point, anything that'll help Mercedes solve the porpoising problem will be seen as a much-needed push in the right direction. This is why Red Bull's team principal Christian Horner has said that any rule change to intervene in this problem would be unfair to those teams that were not suffering from the problem, such as the Red Bull. But it seems like the rules will actually hurt Mercedes due to the fact that there isn't any application directly to the design or changes in regulations that are already in place. To explain this more clearly to you, at the Canadian GP, the FIA will gather telemetry data and undertake a closer technical evaluation of the cars and their behavior just to understand the impact of porpoising. With that data in the system, a strict G-force or frequency limit will then be imposed on cars out on track. This will be done to ensure that drivers won't have to suffer from problems like Lewis Hamilton did in Baku. This is where things get interesting. With this addition to the new rules, the FIA is simply telling the F1 teams that if your car bounces more than it should, then you should raise the ride height and reduce the porpoising by itself. So yes, Hamilton and Russell won't endure much from the porpoising phenomenon, but they will suffer on race weekends due to the increased drag and decreased downforce of their rides. If an F1 car fails to comply with the metrics, more specifically if the setup is too aggressive and the cars are bouncing again a lot, FIA would force them to make changes to dial it out. So it's not like the FIA has added a new regulation to reduce porpoising of the car setups that are already figured out. To put things in an easier manner, the FIA has simply set out a metric system that won't allow the drivers to porpoise as much. If they do, then they have to do the sacrifices of lifting their ride height so that they could continue with the season. Why isn't this hurting Red Bull? Well, the team has already figured out the porpoising level. This means that they could ride the car as low as they can, with the condition of staying inside of the limit set by the metric data. This shouldn't be a problem for the team because, as of now, it seems like the team's genius engineer, Adrian Newey, has fixed the problem that teams are struggling with so much that they had to mix up FIA in the intervention. Apart from Mercedes, the Ferrari team could also take a punch in the gut. If they fail to comply with the metrics, then the team would have to move the car out of its ideal setup window. Add the reliability issues that the Italian team is currently struggling with, then you'll have a team that could go fast from a championship one to a mediocre one, fighting for a P2 or P3. However, changes from 2023 and beyond could be implemented, as the main concern raised by Russell was for the seasons that are yet to come. One idea that was shared directly with the FIA was the adding of active suspension technology or even making mass dampers legal again in the sport. Mercedes are the ones that suffer the most from this lack of technology, as the team has been dominant throughout the past 8 years. Now it seems like it cannot find the right solution to a phenomenon that is costing them too much on the track. So it seems like Christian Horner's initial worries have been eradicated. These new rules and regulations will just force the teams to sacrifice lap time and performance for this phenomenon. Mercedes played their cards right, but they didn't expect that the FIA will be conducting these rules. This hurts them and Ferrari badly because the solution of racing the car ride was always there. They were hoping for something else, such as the resurgence of the active suspension system. However, as we talked about in one of the previous videos, no matter how much other teams rebel about the porpoising being such a big problem, the fact that there are F1 teams that have fixed this problem is enough for their argument to sink in the water. What do you think about the new regulations? Do you think that if Mercedes and Ferrari are forced to sacrifice lap time just to allow their drivers a more comfortable ride will be a season-over move? Or do you think that teams will somehow find a solution and bring the best out of their cars and challenge Red Bull, who's now in a more dominant pattern compared to these two teams? Let us know in the comments, as we'd like to hear from you. Stay safe until our next video.